Jordan Hare is Jordan Hare. The magic's there. I like Auburn the rest of the way. There's panic button because it's Auburn and there's panic button, but I think it's going to be okay, and we're going to get this thing figured out.
Like you said when we opened up the show, let's get around the couch and pull up a weighted blanket, put on some smooth jazz music. Now this sounds kind of sketchy, actually. Now that look, we all realize what I know I'm trying to bring it back, Kyle. We all realize what we just saw against LSU was not good. We're going to dive into it, but let me ask this question first. Was it worse than the Texas A&M results, Austin?
Worse than the results.
What you experienced? Let me ask this differently. What you felt after the Texas A&M game, was that worse, or what you felt after the LSU game? I know maybe I threw you for a loop.
I think I could say both. I'm not going to do it. I think I would say worse, because, like I kind of alluded to earlier, I thought after the Georgia game I was feeling some positives. I felt like there was an offensive identity. Maybe some play calling had changed. Maybe the person play calling had changed. It felt like there was some rhythm, some confidence brewing. And then it's like, well, you got a bye week. The whole bye week, the whole point is to prep for LSU. LSU looked like it had, struggled defensively. They were one of the worst defenses by the metrics. It was like, things could be brewing here at the right time. Yeah, it's a night game in Tiger Stadium, but even a good showing in a loss helps continue some of that positive trajectory of momentum. And then it just wasn't. It comes out and it's just flat. The first two drives, things look lost on both sides of the ball, and you just never want to see that after a bye week. So I think A&M, while I thought it was more evenly matched going into it, and I was like, we have a chance to win this game, and I was very disappointed we didn't. The LSU game, it was like, man, we are not anywhere close at this moment to a team like LSU like we maybe thought we were.
The vitriol I heard after the Texas A&M game, I attribute mainly to people who had somehow made themselves believe that the magic of the 2013 season was going to happen again. And that was their realization that they were wrong about that, which is, you start 3-0, everybody starts feeling good. Texas A&M is a little bit susceptible, and it's kind of a rude awakening, but you kind of understand that. And the way things cooled off after that, I think that kind of holds some water. This one, like you said, where even as much as things weren't perfect during the Georgia game, you're at home too, so that helps. It felt like we took a step forward in some ways, and there were some positive things there, taking the number one team down to 3 minutes and nearly beating them until Brock Bowers. Not even Brock Bowers happened, just until Brock Bowers, who, can I just say this too? And I'm going to be careful saying this because I don't want it to be misconstrued. I'm never wishing ill will on anybody, but it's kind of like when you see that happen, if it's going to be in the cards to happen, just like, why can't that happen that last week?
I will be lying if I said the minute they came on the news I'm like with you. I really want to make sure. I hate that he is hurt.
I never wish that.
Auburn. I think he is. I do think he's the best player in the country. And I think it would be, while I don't want our rival to win a Heisman, a tight end winning a Heisman.
It's cool.
Would be cool. And so when I saw it, I was like, I do not want him to be hurt. But when they show up on the news flash, mid-game of whatever it was happening, because I wasn't watching Georgia Vanderbilt, I'm like, oh my gosh, like you've got to be kidding. 2 weeks after he destroys us.
Yeah. So anyway, we can lament about that all we want. We're here to have therapy about Auburn stuff, and Brock Bowers, while he did beat us, there was more that needed to be fixed there. You got a bye week. You hope and you wish on a star that things were going to be addressed. And look, folks, I hate to break it to everybody, but they were. Does that translate out onto the field? Clearly not sometimes. Yeah. You can work on all and sometimes maybe it's just the realization that, wow, kind of what Hugh was saying leading into the season, folks, we need patience. We need a little bit of time to get this thing right. This is a much bigger problem than one season can fix. And I think people are finally starting to realize that. And some that are realizing it aren't able to rationalize. And so they just start pointing fingers again, because that's just the easiest and frankly the weakest thing to do, just to point fingers. Are there things that can be like attributed to that need to be fixed? Yes. I think play calling is something that's up in contention. This two quarterback system. I mean, let me just open up to you, Austin. What's not working? What's not working?
What's not working?
Yes.
Okay, we try to keep these podcasts to 30 minutes. So I don't know if
I know.
No,
as succinct as you can be.
Yeah, I mean, I think it feels like and this is so vague, and I hate to say this because I hate being vague when talking about football and sports. There doesn't seem to be an offensive identity. Like, we don't really know what we want to do because we don't know what's going to work. And I think that goes both ways. It goes by the coaches maybe not being a little as decisive as they should be, and saying we're doing this, and because this is what we're best at. And then it's also some player execution. Like, we might want to do this, but we can't trust that A will do their job and B will be able to execute this
right.
way. So I think there's an identity crisis and we're kind of stuck in the middle, which is not a place you want to be. And I think, as much as people don't like it, I don't like it either. That's why we keep seeing, well, let's try this, because we're looking for anything that's going to work in the moment. Kyle and I have talked about this before. You think you're frustrated and you think the coaches are just not. That's just not true. The players are frustrated. The coaches are frustrated. They're the ones who are knowing on the field as they're going 3 and out for the 5th time that what is being said on social media. And unfortunately, I hate that that's a thing that's being thought of, but they're wondering at the same time, well, I can't execute this any better, and I don't know how to do it. And at the same time, there's thousands of people watching them wondering the same thing.
Right.
So I think that more than anything, it's an offensive identity question that's the biggest crisis. I think people are just struggling with how do we not have something that at least we can stick to in this moment. Does any of that make sense? I know that's going a long way around.
I think if you want to pinpoint as best you can the problem, it is having an identity on offense. Are we a passing team? Are we a evenly distributed team? Are we a run team? I'll tell you the thing that's just, it's not shocking, but it's just kind of almost disappointing, is how ineffective the run game has been outside of Peyton Thorne's big game.
Yeah.
Which was nice to see. Didn't think he had that much of legs to him. I knew he had some, but that was pretty impressive to see. We thought Robbie was going to be mainly that kind of asset for us, and he is. But, we know that Jarquez had his issues at the beginning of the season that kept him out for a game, and probably slow getting into things as well. But even still has not, whether by opportunities to or whatever, has not gotten going. Damari's gotten hurt. We've had some, nice surprises, Brian Battie and Jeremiah Cobb. But outside of those nice surprises, it's been kind of disappointing to watch the run game not get going. And a lot of it is because we're not creating a lot of opportunities except on the outside for them. Up the middle, there's no holes to be found.
Yeah, no, and it was one thing. I saw Jesse Palmer calling the game last night get a lot of flack. I thought it was really interesting that he kept saying, Auburn's got to establish to run. They are a running team. They want to run. I'm like, I wouldn't say we're a passing team, but I guess you could say that is something we want to do. But it felt more like he was speaking out of evidence so far this year, and I just didn't really follow with that. I think, a lot of it can probably be attributed to a lot of these teams know Auburn doesn't have much of passing at all. It might be clamping down on that run, making sure, well, this is what they got, and we're going to make sure Jarquez doesn't beat us in the middle.
Yeah.
And if that's what's working, then that's what's working for him. I mean, it looks like Auburn doesn't have much of an offensive identity in the run game that they've been known so well for, hardly at all.
Yeah. And I think some of it, too, is people have these expectations for Auburn that were unrealistic, and also get stuck on things such as LSU's the worst defense statistically. That may be, in fact, true. And I know that we have to be even keeled about these, but I think people discredit what playing at home does. If you don't believe what playing in Death Valley does for LSU, then let me just show you what happened 2 weeks ago, where Auburn went 3 minutes away from knocking off #1 team, who's not, the most unbeatable team in the world, but they're still #1. And we saw that. So if you don't think that that makes a difference and negates some of the statistical averages that tend to happen, then you're just not being intellectually honest. Like, you're just operating off of emotions. But it is still valid that was one of the worst defenses Auburn has faced all season, and nothing happened. But it's a much deeper conversation than that. So there's no one fix to this. Switching quarterbacks and acting like that guy is the savior is not going to fix this. It's much bigger, and it's going to take much more time. And I'm going to say it again, folks. You just got to have patience. And unfortunately, it's in short supply right now. So I guess maybe to round things, any final thoughts just about what we've been seeing, and hopefully we're talking about something much happier after the next game.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I was talking with a friend at lunch today, and he asked me, are we going to go to a bowl game? I said, I really think we are. And I think there's multiple to this that make me say yes. And he agreed. We were just having a conversation. But I think he pointed out, it's rough. Like, you think about going to Kyle Field, home against Georgia, at Death Valley, and then home against Ole Miss is a brutal first four. No excuses. Everybody gets the schedule the way the schedule's dealt. Right. That's just how it is. Auburn, there's plenty of Auburn fans who clamor for that Georgia game to be earlier. Okay, well, now it is. Like, you can't put it wherever you want every year. And so that's a brutal first 4 SEC games. That's just how the cards are dealt. But the back half, and you see, sure, anything can happen on any given Saturday, right? Like, I'm not saying it's a shoe-in. But you look at the back half, and I think into this year, no matter what, whether you thought Auburn was going to have 2013 recreated or not, the first 4 look way harder than, Mississippi State, Arkansas, and Vanderbilt, and even Alabama at the back half. You think you'd take those back 4 over the top 4 regardless. And so I think there's optimism. Like you said, Auburn's got a lot more home games left of the year. Jordan Hare is Jordan Hare. The magic's there. It's a night game against Ole Miss. I think it'll be totally fine. I like Auburn the rest of the way in the majority of their games. And so there's panic button because it's Auburn, and there's panic button. But I think it's going to be okay, and we're going to get this thing figured out. But hey, the job we can do, and Jordan Hare for our team, and I don't see that being a problem. So I think we're going to be fine.
Well played, sir. And I think that's a great way to end that. We're all frustrated. Just need a little bit of venting and therapy session. But remember, it is always great to be an Auburn Tiger. It's much better than some of those other choices out there.